Hello and welcome to the show. This is the final of the racing guides, at least the final one for now. We are going to take a look at defending. Now, it really annoys me when people get defending confused with blocking. Blocking is when you weave around on the straight to try and keep the car behind you. Defending is just when you make things a bit difficult for the car behind you to overtake. You know, if you're in the middle of the race, why on earth try and make it easy for the car to get past me? I'm going to make it as hard as possible. That is defending. Yeah, if you weave about all over the place, that's atrocious. You shouldn't be doing that. But if you're defending fairly, then that's perfectly reasonable tactic to use in racing. Now, this is the racing guide I have least looked forward to making. This is a real pain to make, and the reason is when it comes to defending, it changes every lap. Like with the racing, the overtaking guide, with the following closely kind of things, they're all fairly set. You know, when it comes to overtaking, you can either go up the inside, or you can go around the outside, or you can do a cutback. Then that's the three ways to overtake this. There's no other ways of doing it. With defending, it changes massively depending on the track, depending on your driving style. There's loads of different ways to defend, and it will constantly change through the course of a race. So it's quite hard to do a video on. Also, it's been a real pain trying to find the right clip showing the right things, because I have so many replays to go through. But yeah, so that's a little bit difficult. Also, the most important thing really when it comes to defending is you have to know your car, you have to know your track, you have to not make a mistake. The easiest way to overtake somebody is if the person you're trying to overtake falls off the road. So if you make mistakes, you're not going to be able to defend very well. So really, before you kind of start trying with defending and everything, you're going to need to know the car, need to know the track, or need to know the tracks, depending on if you like racing in a race series. It's a good idea to get some practice and that sort of thing. And if you're just planning on racing online, you really need to know your car and have a good feel for the sort of the tracks you're going to be racing in. Because yeah, you make mistakes, you're not going to be able to defend, because it's so easy to get past somebody when they fall off the road. So I've found a few examples from some of the versus the community races that we've been. I think that's where most of these examples have come from. Up first, we have some Subarus, and I am driving as defensively as I can here. Now, for most of these clips, we're going to start off with just showing cars that are equal or very closely matched. You can see here, as we come up towards the hairpin, I've got my car on the inside of on the track. I managed to get it stopped, park it on the apex, and then he can't go around the outside. Basically, the trick to defending is you want to keep your car on the inside of the road. You want to make it as hard for the other guy as you can. You want to make him go right around the outside of you. You can see here, I've peeled away to the inside, and now he's going to have to try and go the long way around the outside. Of course, in cars that are equal, that's really hard to do. You have to be very brave on the brakes and know exactly the limits of your car if you're going to get it around the outside. Now, the other important thing you need to be aware of is sort of places where you need to defend and places where you don't. Every time you sort of have to put your car to the inside, you take a slightly shallower line. Depending on sort of how aggressively you're having to defend, you can take a lot shallower line. This is going to slow you down. You're going to be off the racing line. You're going to be doing slower lap times than you really want to be. So here, for example, he's close behind me, but I choose not to go defensive. I don't think he's going to take a lunge. I probably should have defended there. If I'd been following, I would have had a lunge. But you've got to pick and choose the corners where you defend and where you don't, because you don't want to lose too much time to them. Otherwise, they will eventually find a way to go right around the outside of you. First corner here at Hockenheim, for example, no point defending there because you're very unlikely to make an overtaking manoeuvre. However, I don't move across to the inside quite quick enough, so now his car, he's got sort of where he wants to be for the overtake. However, I don't panic. This is the real key when it comes to defending. Don't make any rash moves. If the car's on the inside, don't suddenly just move across and swipe him off the road. First of all, this is a stupid move because you're both going to end up broken, but as you saw there, I was on the outside, and because I know that the next corner to that was going to go the other way, and if I could keep my car sort of around the outside, I would have the advantage to the next corner. I managed to keep the place, even though I wasn't quite in the right place I wanted to be. Again, coming up towards the hairpin, I'm on the inside. Now, to kind of stop somebody doing a cutback is pretty tricky. You've got to make your car, basically you've got to stop your car on the apex. So I don't mean like completely stop it, but I mean literally have your car so it gets itself on the apex so that they cannot do a cutback on you. If someone tries to go around the outside of you, if they manage to do it, there is very little you can do about it. You can't really stop somebody from going around the outside of you, but for them to actually achieve that, they have to have a lot of grip and a lot of bravery, because that's probably the hardest sort of overtake to do. So we have a look at an Aston Martin versus an Alfa Romeo for this next bit. First corner, Aston gets it a little bit wrong. It's not really where you want to be if you're defending a position. Again, he's kind of slightly out of place. He could try and kind of cut the nose off the Alfa, kind of cut it up to get to the inside, but he doesn't. Again, doesn't panic. If you do that sort of thing, you're more than likely to spin yourself out on the car that's behind you as well, because yeah, the back of your car hitting the front of their car, you may damage them, but if you're driving something rear-wheel drive, you're going to go around in a circle. And again, as you see, just because you're on the outside for one corner, if you know the track well, you can know where to position your car for the next bit, and he manages to keep the position. Next corner though, this is where you do want to be on the inside. You can't really go around the outside here. It's pretty tricky to to do that. The Alfa's having a cut back again. The Aston Martin has parked itself nicely on the apex, and the Alfa can't find a way past. Now this next bit, the Aston Martin kind of misses a trick a little bit. He probably would have wanted to go to the inside a little bit earlier, but he doesn't. Now the Alfa's alongside him again. You can defend doing a cutback, as you will see here. You can defend like this. It's really tough to do that. You don't want to be doing that unless you absolutely have to. If you find yourself on the outside of a car you've been racing with that you know's faster than you, it is possible to kind of goad him into making too bigger a lunge, and then you can do a cutback, and then you can keep the position. You saw there, the Alfa just outbraked himself, and because the Aston Martin was kind of aware of what was going on, he manages to get himself in the position to do a cutback. You can defend doing that. It's tricky to pull it off, and you have to know what you're doing. And a lot of that is hoping that the other car will outbrake himself a little bit in his haste to get past you. But it is a possible way to defend. Although, yeah, that one's is a little bit scary when you're trying to do that. There's going to be a lot of swapping places if you go for that sort of style of defending. Anyway, we're going to have a look at some Lances now, and yeah, as I said, it's very, very important to know when you need to go defensive. As you'll see here, I'm currently leading, but the guy behind me is faster than me through here. At this point in time, he's just far enough back. I'm not having to worry about kind of covering the inside yet. If you start covering the inside too early, you're going to slow yourself down an awful lot, and the car's going to catch up to you faster. Also, if there are cars further back, they're going to then come try and join the battle sooner. So you want to pick and choose your points where you're going to defend. Through this next section, you're never going to overtake through here, not normally, because it's far too fast and far too narrow. You're not going to get an overtaking move there, so you don't have to worry about defending. This next bit, there's not really a corner there, so again, you can just take the normal racing line. Up to the first corner here, though, this is where you are going to have to defend a very good overtaking spot. So you will see that I'm going to dive my car to the inside. Again, I'm going to make him go all the way around the outside. Now, ideally, I'd have got my car stopped and parked on the apex, but I outbrake myself a little bit. Fortunately for me, the white Delta also has a slight slide. Otherwise, he would have been able to put his car up the inside there, and I probably would have lost the place then. This next section, far too fast. You can overtake through here, but when you're in cars that are equal, these cars are both stock, they're exactly the same, you're not going to have the extra grip to go around the outside of somebody up there. So I'm not worried about having to defend there. This time around, though, as we come down here, I am needing to defend because he could have a lunge up the inside. So again, put my car on the inside, and an important thing with this is make sure you kind of signal what you were doing early on. You can see here, I'm not leaving it to the last minute to kind of swap sides to the road. I am slightly out of position here. I'm taking slightly the wrong line, as you will see, but because I know which way the corners go, I can keep my car on the inside, make him try and go the long way around. I am losing time here doing this. You're losing time. When you're trying to defend, you're going to be losing a lot of time. You're going to be doing slower lap times. But if you want to keep the car behind you, this is what you're going to have to do. You are going to slow each other down when you're doing this, but that's racing, yeah. And that's just part of things. You've got to make somebody work to kind of overtake you. There's no point just giving them the place. Otherwise, you may as well be doing time trials. It is part of racing, is trying to find a way past. Again, up towards the first corner, you see I'm moving over fairly early there to signal that I'm going to go defensive. That's something very important. You don't want to be kind of making very last minute change of direction in the braking zones. That's when you have a big crash. I tend to kind of stick with the Formula 1 kind of racing rules. I think most championships have very similar rules. You have one move across the track, you give each other a car's width of space, and you don't sort of suddenly change direction in the braking zone. Because once you've got to that point where you put the brakes on, you can't really do much about it. If the car in front is suddenly going to swipe across the front of you, you can't do anything. You haven't got enough time to react to any of that. As you can see, kind of to this corner, now he's far enough back that I don't have to worry about going defensive. Now here we have an example of pushing things a little bit too much, I would say, on this account. Now, it's okay to kind of squeeze somebody to the white line, or the yellow line in this case, However, if you are going to do that, you have to start making your move earlier. The Porsche here leaves it too late. The Subaru is already alongside him as he's starting to try and come across, and you can see that they're starting to make contacts here. If the Porsche wanted to kind of put him towards the yellow line in this case, you've got to do that sort of early. You've got to signal that you're going to do that earlier. Now, he did give him enough space. He didn't actually push him off the grass. This is about the kind of limit, pretty much right on the limit. You have to give a car's width. If he's going to put his car there, you've got to give him a car's width of room. Now, another example here, you've got to always be sort of aware that somebody might take a dive. I'm not sure. I don't know why the Subaru went to the outside there. Why you wouldn't keep your car on the inside. Okay, admittedly the Porsche cut the track, but if you kept your car on the inside, you would have kept the place. So yeah, you've always got to be aware that if somebody might take a dive, or if someone's that close anyway, you've got to be aware they might take a dive at the corner. You've got to be ready. You've got to be thinking that you're probably going to want to be defending there. And that goes for other corners as well. Of course, there are some corners you're not going to overtake on that you don't have to worry about so much. Now we're going to look at cars that are differently matched. Now a lot of the time when we do this I kind of talk about cars that are evenly matched because that's sort of like driver skill purely based. When it comes to defending, it's near enough impossible to defend from a car that is significantly faster than you in a straight line because you can sort of hold them up around the corners. Well, you're probably not going to hold them around the corners, but they're just going to blast past you as soon as they get in a straight line. And you can't defend against somebody who is much, much quicker than you in a straight line. If you are driving the car that is faster in a straight line, it is also easier to defend. Your car probably won't be the fastest around the lap. As you can see here, I have a Corvette Stingray and I'm racing against a Honda NSX-R. I actually get completely wrong out of that final corner, out of that corner, sorry, and I think the NSX gets a little bit side as well. But because the Stingray has the huge straight line speed advantage, it can sort of keep the position. And again, the NSX is so much better through the corners. Over a lap, the NSX is much, much quicker than my Stingray, but because as soon as it gets in a straight line, I pull out a bit of an advantage. As we come towards the end of the straight now, I'm not having to worry about defending this at this particular point because I've got a big enough lead. The NSX is good under brakes, but it's not that much better than my Stingray. So sort of the main overtaking places, sort of the end of the long straight when there are big braking zones, if you've got the fastest car in a straight line, you're not having to worry about those sort of good overtaking spots because you're going to be out of range of the good handling cars. But as you can see, the NSX is caught right back up to me through these corners. Again, even with a bad exit onto this next straight, I've still got that straight line speed advantage and I can keep my car on the inside. Now, the one thing you do have to be careful about with this, if you're driving the car that's got the better straight line speed, the other guy is probably going to have more grip than you, and it is very feasible that he will drive right around the outside of you, and you really cannot do anything about that. If somebody does that, there's no way to defend from that, not to defend fairly anyway. I mean, you could push them off the track, but that's cheating. So yeah, you've always got to be careful of that. Also, the car that is more powerful, the car that's faster in a straight line, that's probably going to be more powerful, is probably going to be harder to control. So you are more likely to make mistakes. If you can keep your nerve, if you can keep control of your car, it's very, very hard to overtake somebody who is quicker than you in a straight line. The fast, because they're going to be out of range when it comes to the braking points. And through the corners, you're going to have to be very brave. You're going to have to go around the outside somewhere. So yeah, it's very hard to talk about defending on here because yeah, everybody will do different things at different points on different laps, and it'll all depend on what's going on around you. It's basically a case of make it as difficult to pass somebody as you can by keeping your car on the sort of inside of the track, while still being aware of everything that's going on. So you've got to know what corner's next. You've got to position your car for each corner. Yeah, it's it's pretty complicated doing all of that kind of thing. But yeah, give it a go. As I said before, it's best to practice these things with slow cars. I'm thinking sort of C-class cars that are good handling, MX-5s, that sort of thing. If they handle really well, then you can kind of practice with your friends, and you'll get the hang of it over time. If you do want to practice with faster cars, the Subaru you saw at the start of the video, the R3 class Subaru Impreza, that's very, very good for kind of practicing this thing because that has really, really good brakes, really, really good handling. Sure, it's pretty fast, accelerating and everything. Not fantastic top end because it's only sort of 300 horsepower. That's a good car as well for practicing. Maybe if you want to kind of get used to racing with the higher PI cars, the Subaru is a very good one to sort of practice with. Anyway, that is it for this video, guys. So thank you very much for watching. Until next time, goodbye.